we love entrepreneurship in all of its forms, and as I told you yesterday, it was actually super cool that at Sime Next Generation, girls were more entrepreneurial than guys, and we actually were part of publishing a book here in Sweden together with a Dutch team, where they made like a Pippi Longstrump, but in this book, she's 16 years old and she starts a company. And it's a mystery novel, but not based on killing. It's based on creating a company, and it's a young female leader. And it just went through the roof because people started relating to it. That's something we think is super important. And I know Laurie has been working a lot on that issue as well. And I think we have an interview with Randy Zuckerberg as well. So can we play that?
One thing you keep hearing from parents is my kids are coming home and talking about the election, and they're saying some pretty scary things. What do you say to your children?
It's funny, so I wrote Missy, again, a strong female character, putting her into pop culture, because the same thing as a mom, I was having all of these feelings, and I was thinking, okay, how can I arm teachers, parents, with a tool that they can sit and read with their children to kind of make sense of what's going on, but also keep a little bit of that excitement, like, about the American political system, you know, why this country is awesome at the end of the day. So it's about this girl, Missy, who she accidentally becomes the president of the United States. She's working on a school project. What would she do if she were the president? And her sister secretly takes out a smartphone, films her practicing her speech at home, uploads it to the internet as Missy president. It goes viral, and the girls wake up on election day, and practically everyone in America has written in Missy's name. So it grapples with these issues of, okay, how is technology changing the political landscape? I think it's easy, especially in this election cycle, to hear some of the messaging that's being thrown around, and for young girls to feel self-conscious.
I mean, you hear Donald Trump call Hillary Clinton a nasty woman.
Yeah.
As a parent, what do you say to your children who could be watching?
I mean, we're basically in an age where putting reality television on is a safer bet if you have children in the room than putting on presidential debates, which is just a terrifying and a scary place for parents.
Yes, quite interesting. It's worse than reality shows. But,
Right.
but coming back to this issue, so she's coming out with content and media based on entrepreneurial women. And based on leaders. Could you reflect on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. So that's Mark Zuckerberg's sister, Randy, and she's just this kind of powerhouse. And she used to be at Facebook. She could have just stayed at Facebook and been comfortable. And she just always goes out and does her own thing. And one of the projects she's working on, this book was one of them, but she also has a book called Dot. And it's all about this kind of strong young woman. And it's a children's book. And now they've turned it into a TV show. And what she says is, you know, we just need more females in pop culture. There's some interesting statistic. If you look, at least in America, back in the day, like ages ago, I think like 20 years ago, there were more women engineers. And then all of a sudden with pop culture, you had the dude in the hoodie and a lot of kind of television films coming out that really portrayed a different image of what an entrepreneur is. So it's this idea that, yeah, we have a lot of work to do, but let's also start injecting women and young girls into pop culture in a different way. So her books have actually had like a lot of success, and they're being turned into television shows. So this is kind of her next thing, because, you know, she grew up, she has kids, and she wants her kids to be able to believe they can be entrepreneurs, and her little girls to believe that.
I have, you know, I have a daughter that's 2.5. This is my screensaver. Can I get? This is her screensaver when she plays.
That's awesome.
I think it's that funny. And no, but I think we need more superheroes, both men and women. You're one. And we're going to invite a panel of more superheroes up on stage and great leaders. So we're going to have Anna Wikland, who's CEO of Google Sweden. And we're going to have Tim Neen, who heads up Merck, a 350-year-old global pharma and medtech company that is transforming digitally. Please have a seat.
Wonderful.
Oops.
Where do you want us? Should we go here?
Yeah, like this. Great, perfect.
Tim, welcome to sunny Stockholm. Anna, great to have you on stage.
Thank you.
What we want to do here today is to try to look at digital transformation from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. Tim, your company's 350 amazing years old.
Yes, it is. I haven't been with them for that long, but yeah, it is old, traditional, still family-owned organization, yeah.
Yeah, and sort of just to give a sense of scale, how large is Merck?
Now we are 48,500 people across the globe, so true global organization, 3 different businesses, so healthcare, which I'm in, and then there's life sciences and performance materials, so real breadth of innovation in science and technology behind the organization.
And you're leading in things like MS treatments, like fertility and a bunch of other things.
Yeah, so fertility and some fantastic innovations now, which we're developing in the immuno-oncology space and the autoimmune diseases. Our understanding about those diseases is creating some fabulous innovations, which are making a huge impact on these terrible diseases that as we live older, we're now exhibiting more and more of these problems. So it's great that we're at the forefront of some of those innovations, which are going to make a big change to life.
It's pretty cool. I went to Darmstadt. It's a city in Germany where there are 10,000 people. So it's like a Merck city. And everybody feels that they're actually making other people's lives better. It's a strong part of the culture.
It is.
But it's also a traditional company. And now your CEO has said, let's make digital a key priority for the whole organization. What does that mean? What's digital transformation for a company like Merck and for the medical industry?
If you think about what we do, we offer solutions for patients. Now, traditionally in the healthcare space, that's been about a product, is coming up with new innovation, new products that will work on a disease. But I think for digital, for all of us, what it captures from a healthcare perspective is the opportunity to wrap around a product solutions that will make a difference. Because from a patient perspective, you obviously have a product that's working on a disease, but you know patients are far more engaged in their healthcare, and so to be able to offer solutions, whether that's cognitive therapies, whether that's different supports.
So it could be, for instance, you get a disease diagnosed, you get a pill, but you also get an app that will help you with the psychological part of it.
Yeah. And even down to the kind of predictive work that you can put in place to mean that you can target the therapy effectively so you know it's going to work. So it's not a hope when you take the pill, it's actually really, really targeted. We've done a lot of work with biomarkers which have really helped to start that process.
Biomarkers, that's so that individually connected to a pill that is good for me.
Yes, exactly. And now, if you go through the predictive work that we know that we can do, then I think that gives an opportunity to really tailor therapies in a big way, and then go even further down the line and trying to understand what's happening with the genome itself. That gives even greater opportunity to really target therapies, even perhaps before the disease manifests itself, is that you can work on something that's going to maybe stop a disease happening, which is a very exciting future for us.
And I'm particularly interested, so when you look at Google, there are all these crazy, interesting projects Google's working on. So when we always have someone from Google, we say, what are you most interested in right now? What is top of mind right now?
I think that what I'm most fascinated with right now is the progress in AI for us. Not only for us, but for the whole industry. But we are focusing a lot in that sector. We have moved from having like a mobile-first focus to an AI-first.
So AI first, that's a new Google statement.
Yeah. So we are an AI-first company. And if we look at our products, we have done like a big progress. So I mean, within search, the core of Google, we've had AI for a long time, but that has developed a lot. In the US, for example, 20% of all searches now are voice searches. And that's only possible due to the progress in AI. Or, for example, with the Google Photos, if you search in your app for wine or sun or something, then you get all the pictures of, for example, wine, when you're drinking wine and having a good time, or being on a beach or whatever.
But you look at me when we were drinking wine.
No, and also in our latest messaging product, Allo, that we launched this fall, where we also have a very big focus on our Google Assistant. It's going to be part of that product and a lot of our products.
Google has always had the motto, don't be evil, right? And then they kind of shifted that to be do the right thing. So how are you guys doing the right thing as it pertains to kind of digitizing some of these industries and taking on certain projects?
I think that I mean, we're still working with the don't be evil, but I think when we innovate, the most important thing for us is we only want to innovate products that can be of good for everyone. that's why we try to do that with open source and invite others to innovate on top of our platforms, so that the products are not going to be available for just a few, but for all people globally if they want. And that's, I think, is exciting then to see that it was quite recently we announced that we have 7 of our products now that have more than 1 billion users. So that's really powerful. I think that we are doing things that a lot of people appreciate.
But I'd like to know, because you meet a lot of leaders like Tim, and you are leading an industry, and there's many people in the audience. Last year we did a survey, how many had digital anxiety for the change they know that they need to do, and it was like 60-70% of everybody said, I have certain digital anxiety. How do you sort of, as a leader, drive transformation? First, I'd like to hear your views, but I'd also like to hear, what do you see when meeting so many leaders from other industries as well? What are some of the key traits?
The transformation process from a leadership perspective, we have to go through that numerous times, and I think when it comes to digital transformation, my belief is engaging people in a future vision, understanding the benefits that you can offer, whether that's speeding up the development process, whether that's providing new solutions that ultimately are going to benefit patients.
But I mean, just to challenge that, if you see a typical startup environment, they threw mud on the wall and see what works, and it's crappy when it's launched. You, on the other hand, you research something for 10 years, you go through processes for 10 years, and then the medicine comes out. This completely different mindset, it feels like, right?
Yeah, but fundamentally, you're trying to find a solution. And if you think about a transformation process, I think on a leadership basis, you're setting the future for people. You're getting people to engage in what that actually means. And if you can get it in here, if you can engage people with what it's actually going to do and offer, that's really going to benefit patients. I think that's one of the pluses and one of the reasons that we work in healthcare, is because we see this big benefit that ultimately we're changing people's lives. And so you engage with that process when it comes to digital to say, what does this offer? So we can do things quicker. We can impact more people. We can provide tailored information that fundamentally is going to make a difference, whether that's to produce a baby or it's going to change your outlook and extend your life. These are big topics that I think it's very strong that you can get people engaged in that vision.
So if you have people engaged, and if you have people that, you see the fire in their belly and fire in their eyes, probably more than in their belly, you don't see that, I hope. But then what you do? What are sort of some do you have some?
You've got to create the environment, and I think my belief is when it comes to the innovation process is create some space. You talked about some of these things yesterday, and I think diversity in the group's critical. And I think one of the things that I've tried to do in the science field, we're filled with scientists, to then populate that with some very different thoughts, very different generational thoughts as well, is really helpful. But to work with different partnership organizations, and the process that we partner with you here in Sime, was delighted to see that yesterday as an incubation spot for us, where we get ideas, very quickly assess whether we think there's legs in those ideas, or whether we think actually we're not going to take those further, or they need some further work. And I think that kind of incubation hub concept's really good. We've got the same now in headquarters, this enormous innovation center that we're building, which is the same principle as what you guys have put in here, is that we work with different partner organizations. We develop different concepts together with innovators, with entrepreneurs, to see what we can do. We put venture funds in place. Let me finish this. We put venture funds in place which help to support that process as well, which I'm really excited to already see some of the benefits that have come from that.
I was just going to say, do you recognize that?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit before, and it's really interesting, like what you're trying to do. I think around this, like focus on an innovation hub and do that at the same time as, of course, the traditional companies moving along. And I think that, all industries are being disrupted. I think there's not a single industry that is not. And I think the companies, no matter which industry, that will be successful in the future, I think, are the ones that are really focusing on learning and innovating faster than competition. Because you won't succeed if if you don't want to change.
Is there mindset things that you see on successful people or on unsuccessful people? Is there sort of...
I think it is a little bit about this like leaning forward attitude, like really, is the glass half full or empty? Like to really, of course it's challenges, but to try to look at it in a positive way, and to really, I like what you said about like trying to create like a future vision for the company and get the employees excited about that, to drive that together, because that can be a really powerful force. Yeah.
How do you go into those industries that are skeptical? I mean, we were talking before, one of the interesting things Google did, I mean, for me as a journalist, you guys provided these toolkits for journalists to focus on investigative journalism and kind of help digitize this process and also help with comments, which are a huge issue in journalism. We've had to just shut off comments oftentimes because they can be so bad. So Google is trying to help find this solution for this for media, which that was just so interesting to me when it comes to digitizing. I mean, how do you go into some of these industries that have been around for a long time and convince people to make these changes?
I think overall for us it's about for us to be successful over time, we need healthy ecosystems, and we really, if we look at like the news industry, we really believe in that will be even more important moving forward with qualitative journalism, and that's why we're looking in which ways can we help. So what you're mentioning is, for example, the Google News Lab, where we help educating journalists in digital tools. And we also have an initiative called the Digital News Initiative, where we in Europe has put together a fund of 100 million euros that anyone can apply to, but the focus is to develop future-type journalism, and we decide which projects that get funding together with an independent board. So that's important for us.
But what I try to grasp is you hear people saying similar things, but then the results are very different.
Yeah.
So there's some barrier, there's something. Some organizations don't change and don't move, and others do it. So what I want to try, what are some of these barriers you think to change, or barriers that you as a leader can address, or that you can help companies you work with? Could we try to identify some of these barriers, or common mistakes, if you like?
You know, history, knowledge, that this is the way things have been done in the past. I think some of the things that you talked about yesterday is that if digital becomes you know, a bolt-on to normal operating practice, then that becomes an issue, because it's an additive thing rather than being integral to actually what you're trying to do. So I think those kind of barriers you can address. From a leadership perspective, it's creating the right environment, giving it the right support. And if you're consistent with those messages about the importance of this, the recognition of and the opportunity that transformation offers, then I think you can get past those barriers. And what we talked about when we were talking about Sime is that the ability, there's proof of concept, very quickly showing successes that helps to build the momentum behind that transformation and that change. And I think that's really important, show your success.
I think it's also what type of culture you create. Like a more daring culture where it's okay to fail, and to really like try things instead of thinking for too long before you do that, and really get that through the whole organization and culture. I think the companies that are good at that have a better progress, and I also think it is around like the diversity of employees, both in terms of course, like gender and ethnics and so forth, but also age. I've talked a little bit about that, but I think it's...
That's why I never get any job offers from Google.
No, but I think that it's also important, maybe sometimes to challenge a bit traditional companies when it comes to like the management teams and the board. Do they have some younger people too that are more born into the digital world, where this is super common, to just kind of get a different perspective on things. I think that can also get the ball rolling faster.
How do you create that environment where it's like not bad to fail? The bigger the company, the more at stake. I'll never forget a story an investor told me of Procter & Gamble. They wanted to do something very similar to Harry's, which was like you can just send razors to your home, that kind of thing. And this completely disrupted the industry. But they had the idea to do this, and they decided not to because they were scared, maybe we'll lose a little money. We're not sure what the gain would be. And they didn't take the risk. So like, how do you at a big company really facilitate an environment where people can throw things against the wall, can fail a little bit?
I think it is around like talking a lot about it, but also like when you, I mean, we have like great evaluation cycles or feedback cycles. We are very much about feedback, and to also show that giving positive feedback to people even when you fail, so that's built into the culture that it's okay. It's better that we try things. Some won't work. I mean, with the seven products with 1 billion users, I mean, there are of course a lot of products that have failed prior to these products. So I think it's really around that and talking about these things.
And quick decisions, I think, very helpful. Make it a quick decision. If you're going to fail, make quick decisions to stop. And we always talk about making sure that you can learn from failures, and so you can apply that learning in the future. And that
I think that's a beautiful quick decision. Make a note, all large company executives. Quick decisions. I think that's, it's better sometimes to just make a decision and then do it in steps than to, because it's so difficult for smaller companies to work with large companies if decision cycles are so long.
Right.
But if you look at the future now, both of you, because unfortunately time is running, what are some of the things you think are most exciting right now? What's most exciting in the health sector? And what are some of the things that we will, that guys like you will change with Merck over time?
If you think about even the next few years, we've got some major advances in the treatment of oncology and fundamentally changing the landscape in terms of life expectancy. All of us are faced with cancer. It's going to touch every single one of us at some point in life, and so to be able to address that and really make a difference, perhaps even
we will
eradicate.
Eventually cure cancer?
Yeah, we already do for a number of patients, and we've got a proportion of patients that really now have cancer's gone for certain types of disease. And I think over the next 5 years, you're going to see some major steps forward there. The next point after that is what goes on up here, because if we live through the cancer, then this thing is going to start going next. And Alzheimer's dementia, I think, is the next big target. That, as we touched upon yesterday, makes a big societal difference, because suddenly life expectancy is 100 plus. Our children's 140 years old. What does that mean for life, and how do we suddenly change the whole aspect of society? So some very exciting times. I think over the next 10 years, you're going to see some major advances.
Yeah, I mean, all of that sounds, it's really interesting. And I just, back to AI and how that helps products and society become smarter. I really look forward to just see the progress. But also VR. Where are we going to go with VR? I'm so excited for my kids. Like, they're not going to read about Colosseum in a book. They're going to experience Colosseum and all of these things that I'm really excited about too.
So if I summarize a little bit, purpose-driven organizations that understand where they're going and why. The why is important. Using lots of AI first, and try in environments that are safe, diverse, not risk-avert, probably outside the immunity system of a large organization. Make fast decisions. Look out for VR. And I'd add to that, I think the best time of our life will be when we're senior citizen. Can you imagine how good the games will be and good everything else? Have a great time. Thank you very much for a lovely conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.